So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology, and it's been several years since the launch of the iPhone 13. As a matter of fact, we're in its 4th year now, and in this episode, I want to discuss and see, is this phone still fast on the latest iOS 18.4? So let's go ahead and begin with a boot up against the iPhone 16. Now this isn't a proper speed test, but I just want to showcase how this thing is actually performing, and what better way to do it than compare it to its latest successor, the iPhone 16. So you can actually get a 16e with a similar body shape to the iPhone 13, but you will be losing out on the ultra wide camera, and the build actually doesn't feel as nice as the iPhone 13. And look at that. Well, from the first test already, it looks like the iPhone 13 is significantly booting up faster than the iPhone 16. So far, that's a good thing for the 13. So to confirm we're on iOS 18.4, you can see right here, we are on the official iOS 18.4 22E240. So this update brought 8 new emojis and more, quite a bit more actually. This is a pretty large update. Now to confirm that here for the iPhone 16, I'll go over here, we'll go over here to general, and we'll do software update. And you'll see this one is also on the latest iOS 18.4 official version. Now, one of the things I want to do is just launch a few applications, some popular based apps. So let's go ahead and do that right now. All right, so before we do that though, let's go ahead and just kind of swipe and navigate through the general user interface. So basically iOS, see how everything performs. So as I swipe through the home pages and through app library, there is no stutters or lags. And this is exactly how a newer iPhone is going to feel. And remember, this phone came out in 2021. This phone does have 4 gigabytes of RAM. You could see right here in Geekbench 6. It does have an A15 Bionic with a clock speed of 3.23 gigahertz. It also has the notch, which they also brought back for, again, that 16E. But if we go ahead and swipe up out of here, you'll see I wouldn't even know this phone didn't just come out. Like, that's how smooth iOS still runs on here. Of course, granted, it is a 60 hertz. But let's come over here to the iPhone 16 and see if this looks any different. I do think the iPhone 16 does look like it moves along slightly faster, but it could be just me thinking that because my brain thinks it's newer. But generally, it doesn't look too different. It looks basically the same. If I click App Library and I go through here, everything is good as well. So if we go over here and we go ahead and pull down from the right, you'll see 0 perceptible difference at all. So this is nice. This is one of the reasons why I like buying the iPhone, because I can have it for all these years and I could still get this same type of performance that we're seeing right here. Now you might say, well, you're not really doing much. Well, let's go ahead and customize some apps. We'll go over here. And one of the things that was really buggy early on was with iOS 18 was this tinting of icons and stuff. And you could see when you go ahead and tint, everything looks pretty good to go. So the core experience, and those are some horrible looking color icons on the 13 over there. That does not match up well. But you can see no major issues with that either. And see, Apple did this pretty smart, because what they did was they didn't overbear you with customization features as to not make the phone feel slow. So even their older phones would still retain good performance because they didn't put too much. Even if we go large icons, you can see all of them are properly lit up and there is no major concern there. So far, the 13 literally is running in 2025 just like a brand new phone, but that might change as we start to open up some of these apps. All right, so let's go ahead and open up some popular applications. We'll start with Instagram here. So you can see Google is advertising the Pixel right there. If we go over here to my home feed, you'll see right here as I scroll through, no perceptible difference. Let's click an image here. How about we click this 15 Pro post I did right here? And you'll see no big difference. So if I go over here to make a comment, I'm not going to comment on my own post. I just want to see if there is any perceivable difference. Let's go ahead and open up something right here. And you could see those loaded essentially at the same time. So when you are actually just up in here inside of these apps, there's not a major difference there so far. Let's check out YouTube now, another popular application. And I'll go over here to trending. And you'll see if I go to music, gaming, movies, look at this, loading at about the same time. I know we're talking about Wi-Fi as well here, but look at the scrolling, pretty much the same. So do you see why sometimes people get a little annoyed about Apple bringing these similar phones year after year? Because they don't really feel all that different. That's because they do keep their older phones updated, but you get the point. Let's go ahead and open up something else. How about Brawl Stars on both? And when we do get into a game here, it's going to change up that experience a bit. So far in 2025, I got to say, I would definitely probably not upgrade the 13 unless you were going to something that had significantly better battery life or significantly better specs. I would probably only do it if I was going to like a 16 Pro, Pro Max, maybe even wait till the 17 series, because even the 16 Pro is not drastically a different experience than even a 13. Besides the cameras are, the smoothness is, but it's not like the core phone itself is not drastically different. All right, so let's launch Amazon here and see how this performs. As you see, another casual app. If I go ahead and open up some pages here, so let's go into electronics, which is something we're covering here. As we swipe through, you'll see, again, in these casual apps, in these popular apps here, what most people are using day to day, yeah, the loading took a little bit of a second there, but now it's taking a second here. The 13 keeps up fine with the latest 16. So really, are you really upgrading in terms of how fast it is these days? I don't know. Maybe the RAM for the longer term, but even now, we're at 4 years. The 13 probably will get updated to the latest version and probably have a year after that. We'll see. Of course, they're not getting the AI intelligence features, but a lot of people don't really seem to care too much about that. It's still in its infancy, as it still says beta in the settings menu of the 16. So I am digging where the iPhone 13 is performing right now. Let's take a look at some multitasking now. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look now and see how it does here. Now, again, I only opened up a few popular apps. So if you did open up a bit more, it might be behind, but you can see there is no way, shape, and form that this 13 is slowing down the average user here. That did reload the average user here in 2025. So you can see why, this was a great option. The 13 was one of my favorite iPhones in the past several years, just because I thought it offered tremendous value at the time. Dual camera. At the time, it did offer tremendous. Nowadays, this phone is not overly impressive, but the 16E to me feels cheaper in the build than this phone. This had a nice glass back, dual camera setup. This felt nicer than even the 16E. That feels like a cheaper 16. So as we scroll through, no major issues. Although I will say, as this phone does get like a lot of apps open, it does close some of them due to the limited RAM, and you do have to deal with that a little bit. But it's not really going to probably mess up the average user here in 2025. And of course, with an 8 gigs of RAM, the 16 is going to do this a little bit quicker. You can probably fly along these apps just a little bit better, but it's not drastically different. So this is definitely pretty fast in most areas we've checked so far. Let's take a look at a benchmark here. So you'll see that even since 2021, look at that single core. It's like 1,100 points better, a few thousand on the multi, but that doesn't make a massive difference in casual use or for the average user here. I could easily pop my SIM card in the iPhone 13, which I can't do on the 16, and rock out and still have a pretty fast experience here on 18.4. Now, if I go ahead and run a 3D Mark, we'll see how different the graphics can perform. But technically, the iPhone 13 is still relatively fast here. So I do think that if you were looking for one of these at a really low price, you wanted to get on iOS, I think the 13 is still a good option. I really do, as long as you're okay with no Apple Intelligence, which a lot of tech channels tend to push and talk about, because we are on the cusp of an AI revolution right now. We all know this. But at the same time, the Apple Intelligence is not even the best version. You can just download chat models on the App Store, and you could just get on with your AI like that. So it's not really like those. They're add-ons, but they're not at that point where like it's like life-changing stuff on the iPhone just yet. I feel like it's useful if you use it, but still, the chat models are probably just as good, like Gemini, ChatGPT. Those are the ones that really, to me, are really doing it big right now on AI. So the on-device AI stuff, it's cool and all, but it's not like something you have to have right now. So the 13 is still fast here in 2025. And so here's another example of why the 13 is still a relatively fast phone. So we got 2242 and an average frame rate of 13.4. Now I just tested the other day, and I've been testing, as you might have seen if you watch the channel regularly, the Galaxy A56. Now this is a really nice big budget Samsung phone. I know this is not even close to the price range of these, but this phone is several years older and that phone still has lower frame rates per second than this old 13 with 13.4. This scores better than 42% of devices from all other devices on the market. Twice as fast here at 82% on the 16. But you got to ask yourself, how much gaming are you doing on these two phones? Because I would reckon a lot of people aren't doing a ton of gaming on these sized ones. And even if they are, most of the apps are developed well for mobile, so you don't really notice a major difference. I will tell you one thing that is relatively noticeable though. The iPhone 13, because of its glass build, the way it just feels warmer. I don't know if it's the optimization of the 16, whatever. It just doesn't feel as warm. It never gets as warm to the touch. So while this one is fast, it doesn't have the same heat management as a 16. So I really care about photography. Is my iPhone 16 fast? Yes. But is my iPhone 13 faster or fast, pretty similarly quick as the 13 or as the 16 in 2025? Look at that. I could take that photo really quickly. Let me go ahead and click that right there. Hit that ultra wide, which is not available on the all new 16e. Although you do get less zoom here on this phone, and it's not the best. So 13 wasn't my favorite there. But you can see I'm not having no issues with speed of camera. I'm not probably missing any moments here on this phone. Let's see how the 16 fares against that. And you can see I'm not seeing a substantial difference. Quality wise, absolutely. The 16 blows the 13 away in quality. Of course, the phone's 4 years newer, it should. But my final verdict is this phone held its own. I would expect this to do the same. I could probably talk about this phone in 2029 or 8, and it'll probably be a great performer. It'll have Apple Intelligence. It does have the action button, camera control button. So that's definitely a nice upgrade from the 13. But is this phone still fast in 2025? The answer is yes. The iPhone 13 on 18.4 is running like a thumbs up for sure. Let me know your experience on your 13. I know many of you do have these still. Are you planning to upgrade this year? Are you going to keep it for a while? Did this video make you happy to know that your 13 is running so well? Let me know which has been your favorite iPhone over these past 5 years, because they've kind of gotten a little stale. We got to be honest, but everybody has their own favorites. 13 was one of my favorite base ones in a while. So let me know your thoughts down below in the comments section. Thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll catch you all in another video like this soon. I'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Be sure to be well, and peace.